Welcome to Kumbasoft DPAA tutorials. This tutorial is about importing configurations, and before you walk away and you say, oh, big deal, we can import configurations, that's not something special. You probably want to see how DPAA does it and the tools that are available to you with the DPAA tool that enables you to import configurations in a much more powerful way than what you may be otherwise accustomed to doing. So be sure to set your video playback to high definition, and though some visual details of DPAA may have changed since this video was created, the functionality will be the same. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and started DPAA. I've selected a couple of appliances and I've selected a couple of domains. So this is one important thing here, is in importing configurations without writing a script, without doing anything, just clicking the mouse a couple of times, we can get configurations imported into multiple domains across multiple appliances with considerable ease. Up at the top of the screen, I'm going to look at the configurations tab. So it starts with find, status logs, and then configurations. Then under configurations, you've got a couple of tabs, one of which is the import configurations tab, which is about halfway down. So when you get to that screen, you have a couple of options, and the first thing that you got to do is you got to get some files in here for updating, for importing. So if we click on the first button here, which is to add a file to the list, we get a pop-up window that, it will go to, its directory you may have to navigate around. But I can select more than one file, and I can select and put them into here. The other way I can do it is I can actually drag and drop. So I haven't had this file window open, and I can grab a couple of files like this and I can drag and drop them into here. So you can do it any way you want to, whatever's convenient for you and whatever you like to do the most. So you can drag and drop, or you can add them and select multiples at one time. So when you select the files and DPAA gets to looking at them, based upon the extension, it assumes the file type. Now that's just based upon the extension. It doesn't open them up and examine them to try to determine if they're actually the file type. So if it ends in XCFG or XML, it's going to assume it to be XML. And if it ends in zip, it's going to assume it to be zip. Any other extension, it's just going to put zip in there because it doesn't know exactly what to do. So that's the way it picks that. But in most cases, you're going to be exporting either an XCFG, a zip, or an XML. And in that case, it'll probably pick the right extension for you without you having to worry about it. The other thing is that we can choose to, by default, it comes up with overwrite files and overwrite objects. We can individually select these objects and select these checkboxes to turn that off, so we don't have to overwrite files or objects in either way, depending on what we may be importing. We also have the ability to choose a deployment policy and deployment policy variables. So we can just go in here and we can select one, and we can say, okay, I'm going to select a deployment policy, and then for that one I'm also going to select, say, the variables that belong to it. Now, one thing to take note of here is we can edit. This is an editable field. So I can write something, I can type in a file name or an object name like this, and I can do that with deployment variables here, not yet imported. And the idea behind doing this is that, let's suppose this import is a deployment policy and deployment policy variables, and that we want to make that happen in our when this gets imported. We know that's the name of the deployment policy. We know that's the name of the deployment policy variables. And then this is where import order becomes more important to us. So we want to be able to support our import order so that we can, guarantee that certain things are imported in the right order. So I can say this is going to be imported first, and then when it gets to this import, it's going to have the deployment policy and the deployment policy variables object it needs to be able to deploy this one here. And that way I can type those in. Now, otherwise, it just sources the name of the deployment policies and deployment policies variables from the selected appliances and domains. If you pulled in too many files and you're saying, oh, wait a minute, I didn't want to actually select these, you can remove them by control clicking or shift clicking, and then you can remove them from the list and they'll be gone from the list. Some other checkboxes that are available to us on the screen here is dry run. Now, dry run is an all or none consideration. So basically it means that everything's going to be in a dry run if we select the dry run. And then save configs by default is on, but we can choose to turn that off so that just in case we want to verify the deployment before we commit anything, and with DPAA's undo configuration feature, we're safe to do that as well. We don't have to save the configs, but if you turn this on or you leave it on, then it will save the configs after it does the import. Now, if all you're doing is importing files, for example, then it won't matter what this button may be. When you're ready to do the import, you simply select this import configurations button, and DPAA then goes about performing the imports into the selected appliances and domains. So right now I've just selected that. I left save configs on, so you can see that the save config is done all the way down there as well. So I've imported everything into here, and then I have saved the configs in one go. Now, that was pretty quick. And again, I affected 2 domains of 2 appliances, which really means I affected 4 domains all told within the system. So that's how you do a import. Again, you can select files, drag and drop files. You have several options available to you, and you also have the ability to apply deployment policy variables, and control the import order. So if you have any suggestions or comments, go out to www.kumbasoft.com, or if you want a license, you can go to the Contact Us page. You can put in your information, and somebody from Kumbasoft will be getting back to you. You can also see all the other tutorials and details available on that website. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day.